And welcome back to the Midday Show. I'm Jeff Everett. He is Mark Messina. We are back live in person, right across from me. This is good. This feels right. It feels right.
It feels right?
It does.
Wow.
You know, we
did
did
almost a little romantic.
Yeah, you know, for 7 or 8 months, this is how we did the show. And then, you know, we went on hiatus and then we ended up kind of quarantined and away from each other. And I don't know, there's something about being able to look at you and just being able to tell.
To just gaze into my eyes?
There's just something about being able to hear you say something dumb in person versus having the headphones on. And I don't know, something to it.
Have I ever said anything dumb?
Listen, we're going to say some dumb things today because we're going to talk about pet cloning. We're going to talk about parking lot etiquette. We have a story from the local Sam's Club we're going to touch on. We're going to talk about teens and whether or not they should be allowed to drive big rigs because it sounds like it's going to happen. And then we're also going to touch on COVID and just update what's going on in the state with that as well. Before we get to the pet cloning and the parking lot etiquette, Mark, how are you feeling today?
Hold on.
What do you got there?
It's bothering me. There we go. Now I'm better.
There you go. That helps.
I feel good. Well, let me tell you what I did. The whole, like I keep telling you, like I feel fine and I'm waiting to get sick.
Yeah.
So last night I'm laying in bed at 3 o'clock in the morning because that's what I do. Because why would I sleep?
Sure.
And I feel fine.
Okay.
And so my brain it won't shut down. And I have really bad grass allergies, as I think I've told you that. Like springtime, I'm one of those people that kind of from April through June, I just can't breathe.
Okay.
And they tell you that you can take those steroid sprays like Flonase or nasal corticoid. They tell you can take those every day of your life and they're perfectly safe.
Okay.
That kind of scares me. Considering I only need it 3 months out of the year, that scares me.
Sure.
But the other thing they tell you is you need to get your regimen going earlier. Like it takes 2 weeks for it to get flowing.
Okay.
So like every year, like March 1st, I start with the nasal spray and it kind of gets me ready for spring.
Yeah.
So last night I'm laying in bed and I know all this stuff with COVID and breathing and sinuses and when I've got all these sinus issues and I know this one's more. So I'm like, well, maybe I should just start on my regimen now at 3 o'clock in the morning on January 19th, because why not? So, and I don't like for the people who suffer from these sinus issues, they know they can feel my pain. You people that don't have no idea what I'm talking about.
Sure.
So I spray my nose, feeling perfectly fine, just thinking I'm being preventative. 15 minutes later, I can't breathe.
Yeah.
Because I've clogged my own nose. So then I lay there for an hour waiting for stuff. So I created my own stuffy nose because I sprayed my nose when I was perfectly healthy. And now I have a stuffy nose.
Yeah.
Isn't that brilliant?
That was somebody got a stuffy nose and what they did about it.
I mean, and I feel great.
That's good.
Except,
so you'll be ready for the spring then. You're just going to keep this regimen.
Well, now I don't know what I should do. Like, should I do it again?
I think you just got to keep going.
Well, yes, you're just saying that because you think you want to see me be an idiot.
No, I'm not at all. I'd be curious to see if you just kept going, what that would mean for you in the spring with your allergies. That's all.
I don't know.
Because like you said, there is a flow to it. Like they tell you like to prep, like don't wait until you actually.
Yes. And that's why March 1st, it's kind of like,
okay.
And, but it's one of life's perfect examples of, if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Sure.
And everything was fine. And it's also this where I'm not a hypochondriac in general. I rarely take any medicine anyway.
Yeah.
But like laying there, I was like, well, maybe I should be proactive and maybe I should get ahead of the game. And now
Okay. So can I tell you about my weekend when I went to Sam's Club? And it'll bleed into this story that you can find on NorthcentralPa.com.
Absolutely. Okay. This is a good
So
story.
we went to Sam's Club around 10:30 on Saturday morning. And as we were walking up, this is my girlfriend and I, and as we're walking up to Sam's Club, there's nobody. You usually have to flash your card, and there's nobody at the door. The entrance is kind of jacked up. They're kind of pushing you other ways. So we walk in, there's no one to show, and I'm like, that's weird. We walk off to the side, and there was a handful of policemen, and like one or two of them's talking to one lady, another one's talking to another, and there's one just kind of standing there. And I'm like, this is really bizarre, but everything seems normal. Nothing seemed out of the realm of, normalcy. So I walk over, I grab a card against the wall, and we go shopping and literally forget about it. Never think about it again. It's over. It's done with. I come in this morning and I open up the news, and on NorthcentralPa.com, for all your local news, weekend disturbance at Sam's Club draws police. A disturbance in the parking lot of Sam's Club around 10:17. So I missed this. I had the opportunity to see this, and I missed it by about 15 minutes. So I must have taken too long to tie my shoes or something else. There was two people, a 61-year-old female and a 39-year-old male, reportedly engaged in a dispute over driving habits in the store's parking lot at the Lycoming Mall. According to police, the dispute continued into the vestibule where one person shoved and spit on the other. The person struck back in retaliation, according to the report. Both individuals were cited with summary harassment and disorderly conduct in district court. I missed this by less than 15 minutes. I'm telling you.
Which is good, because you probably would have got your ass kicked by the 61-year-old woman.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So here's my first question in reading this, and I know there's deeper to this. Who was the spitter?
It does not say.
It does not. That's why I'm asking you to speculate. Was the spitter the old woman, or was the spitter the young guy?
All speculation. Okay, there's two ways to go with this, right? I would say
either the guy or the chick.
Correct. However, if you believe that the guy did it because the younger male is more likely to be disrespectful, then I would say the guy. However, if you're a 61-year-old female like going at it with a 39-year-old male in a dispute, your spitting may be your best weapon in a way, because like you can't get into a physical altercation. That's a disaster for you. Right?
Now that you've laid out all the parameters, which side are you picking?
This is awful. I can't believe I'm picking between these two things. I'm going to guess that it was the 61-year-old female.
That's what I'm guessing too.
You think it was the 61-year-old female?
I do.
Complete speculation. That would be my guess, but that's hard. So you and I thought, you said you could talk about an hour about parking etiquette and just what's expected. I remember this. I'll tell this quick story, and then you can dive into it. One of the first times I ever saw two adults verbally fight, and I remember, I think I was like 5 or 6 in the back of a van. We were parking at the mall in Elmira during holiday season, and my parents and someone else pulled up to like a person backing out. They backed out towards the other people. My parents pulled into the spot, and you would have thought that they committed a felony. Window came down from the other car. They were waiting. We were waiting. And I remember like 5 or 6-year-old me being like, I've never seen a full out verbal altercation. So this is a real, like, parking lot etiquette, and like the competitive spirit for people comes out in parking lots.
So it was fried green tomatoes-ish.
Yes, a little bit. But I remember, I'll never forget that, because it was the first time I'd seen like not people that knew each other. Like I've seen family members and stuff, but it was like 6-year-old me and being like, you don't know that person and they don't know you, and you two are like going. So yes.
So did your dad give up the parking spot?
No, I think we kept it. I think we held on.
Was there profanity fired back and forth, or don't you remember?
I don't remember profanity, but I do remember just like they were not letting it up. Like they were going to test to see if we would leave that spot or not. And it was like window down, screaming, like it was brutal. And it ended with kind of like a "have a nice holiday," kind of like the sarcastic.
See, no, I think because the etiquette says like the first person there with their blinker on waiting gets it.
Right.
And if I pull in and somebody else says, no, that was my spot, I got to believe I'm giving it to them because I'm afraid they're going to damage my car.
That's true. I hadn't thought about like the repercussion once you go inside.
Yes, because I always tell this story all the time when I lived in Baltimore. Now they have all the fancy meters that you pay with a credit card, and you can tell how long you want to put it in, and you put the little slip on your dashboard and all that stuff.
Sure.
But back in the 90s, it was just you're filling it with quarters, just like everything else. So you'd go in. I think the meters there were either like 3 or 4 hours. Okay. Here in Williamsport, they're 2, but there they were longer. And that reminds me, I didn't feed my meter. I'm going to get a ticket today. What?
That's all right.
So anyway, so I remember, and there were guys who would walk around. There were window washer guys in the
Okay.
city, and there were these guys that would come out and say, "Hey, if you like give me $1, I'll keep an eye on your meter and make sure it's always filled."
Okay.
And so it's a racket, but it is what it is. And so when people from Pennsylvania would come down, and these guys would come up to me, and they'd be like, "Hey, give me $1," and I could not have been more gracious. I'd be like, "Hey, dude, thanks a lot." I would give them $2 or $3. And my friends would be like, "What are you doing? Like, you just handed that guy $3." And I was like, nobody's going to mess with my car for $3. If this guy asks me and I tell him to go pound sand, who knows what's going to happen to my car?
Yeah.
So it's just like a parking expense. But I know that these guys are going to be on the streets all night. Nobody's messing with my car.
No, it's a valid point. Did you know more accidents happen in parking lots than like any other aspect of driving?
Well, I have said the reason I wanted to talk about this when you brought this up, and I said I could talk about parking lots for an hour. As a parent, one of my consistent annoying rules with little kids was we all hold hands in the parking lot.
Okay.
Because the obliviousness of adults. Now, pulling in and out, visibility can be difficult.
Sure.
The thing that drives me insane is adults who are grown and supposedly intelligent, who park their car, who walk blindly right down the middle of the thing, have no idea any other cars are around.
Sure.
It is incredible to me how stupid people become in parking lots. And
going along with stupid, I'm always amazed at how competitive people get. Like, I know friends and family who, to them, the goal is to get as close as you possibly can to the building. And it is, you don't give up on it. Like, it is like a sense of pride to get a spot as close as you possibly can.
See,
are you that way?
has
like, do you
never
feel
been
that
me.
competitive spirit when you pull up?
No, that has never been me.
Okay.
And I'm often looking for spaces that are already like, there's a car here, and it's wide.
Yeah.
So doors will open, no one's going to ding me. And
Are you big on the pull through? Are you a believer of the pull through?
It doesn't really matter.
I am the king of the pull through.
Really?
I will park. It's the first thing I look for when I go into a lot, because it avoids a lot of what you just discussed, like not being able to see the unknowing and all. It just, if you can pull through, it negates all of it.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when you're talking about the people who want to be close, I'm probably more of the opposite.
Okay.
I would park further away just so I have less around me, that there's less chance that somebody's going to ding my car, that it's...
Now, here's the other weird thing that I do too. Most people will avoid parking by the cart holder.
Oh, no.
Because they don't want to get right. But what you just described, like, they don't want to get nicked or bumped by somebody returning the cart.
See, my ex actually taught me this. She's like, you always park right next to it.
I do the same thing.
Because it's so convenient.
I will do the same thing if possible. I will park like directly across from it if possible.
Yes. No, my ex taught me that. If you are like grocery shopping, or if you're going somewhere where you're going to need a cart, you park as close to it as you can.
Okay. See, so there's two school of thoughts there. That's
Yes.
If you're listening, comment, are you a park by the cart, or are you a park further because you don't want the hassle or the nick of somebody bumping your car with the cart?
And now, like, she was a lot more obsessive about it than I am.
Okay.
But when I pull in, and there are times I park and I look around before I shut the car off.
Okay.
And I'm like, no, I can get over to that one, and then I'll adjust.
Okay. Let's say you find a spot. Because again, we could go on for this. Let's say you find a spot, but one of the cars next to you has a dent or has clearly had. Do you question whether or not you pull in? I don't know if that's. I mean, it would. Obviously, it would scare me. I have dated people that have specifically said, "Don't park next to that car. Look at its bumper," and that is a real thing.
I would have a tough time arguing that. I get that.
It's also. I've also heard like the old banger theory. So like, if there's an old car, old truck, and it's beat up and everything else, they're just going to care less about the nicks and the bumps and the cuts than somebody who has a newer car. So park next to the newer car because they're more likely to treat it. Yes.
I can see both of those.
But you never think about
I
that
have
when you go
not
do it.
until now.
Until now. Now I have the wheel
Now I
spinning,
will.
don't I? Interesting. All right. Anything else?
Do you do this?
What's up?
There are certain parking lots that I kind of park in about the same spot all the time. At Sam's Club, I'm almost always in the same general area.
So it's so
at the grocery store, I'm almost in the same general. At Walmart, I'm not.
It's so funny you say that because it's not a spot, but what you're describing areas.
Yes.
Like, yeah. So when we go to the Target, we are always on the side instead of in the main lot.
Okay.
So yes, I do have this weird thing. I do it when I pull up for practice. I like go to the same spot section every single time. Yep.
And what's weird for me is then I come out of Walmart and I can't find my car.
Well, that's a problem.
Because I'm like, well, where did I park this time? And then, because, I walk out of the grocery store and I just wander this way because it's always over here. And, oh, there it is.
Right.
And then,
when you're sitting in the passenger seat, it's almost watching somebody else park. It's not infuriating, but do you ever have the moment of like, why did you park? Like, because you clearly are seeing. It's like pulling up. I don't even know how the analogy I'm looking for, but you clearly have the playbook in your head. Like when you come into the lot, you're like, oh, I would go there, and that's a good one, and it's right. And then you're in the passenger seat, so you're just watching this other person park. And if they go to like a completely different spot or section, there's this moment of like, what are you doing?
This is one of the joys of like singleness. I've not been in the passenger seat when someone's been parking in a long time, except when I was teaching my kids to drive.
Okay. You want to know, like, I think I've talked to you about this before, like signs of love. Like when there's all these little subtle things that people don't talk about with love. My dad drives everywhere and my mom is the passenger 99% of the time. And when they pull in somewhere, my mom will not tell him where to park. However, she will tell him where not to park. And to my dad's credit, he handles it. The majority of the time, he handles it like a champ. But like to me, like those little things, like you'll never write that in a card. Like, you know what I mean? Like it will never be like in the epitaph or on the epitaph or anything like that. But it is one of those moments where like, somebody really must love somebody when they're telling you where you can't. They won't tell you where to park, but they will tell you can't park.
So then here's the question. Is she doing it because she thinks she's helping? Or is she doing it because she knows that he'll screw it up?
Oh no! I mean, I would imagine it's more the first than the second. It's probably just a control thing. Like she never drives, so it's just her way of kind of like we shouldn't park there, so don't park there.
Because one of the fascinating things as I've gotten older and older, with my own mother, and I've noticed that these things that she says that are so insulting to your intelligence.
Sure.
But then you get past and you're like, she's just trying to help.
Right.
And it's her way of just like she's here and she's trying to help.
Yeah.
And she doesn't realize that she's basically calling you an idiot, but she doesn't mean that you're an idiot. She's just trying to help.
Yeah. That's her way of helping.
It would be like me saying, Jeff, it's 12:30, you should eat lunch now. Right. And you'd be like, yes, I've been eating lunch my whole life and I can tell time. I get how that works. Yeah. But I'm just trying to help.
She thinks she's helping.
Yeah,
I get it.
So anyway,
yes or no? Have you ever been in a parking lot?
Argument?
Yes.
No, I don't.
Never. Have you been?
I can't.
Have you been honked at?
Oh my gosh.
Okay.
Oh well, I'm honked at a light for reading my phone when when you get to a red light and you're reading your phone, then you get honked at.
Okay.
No, that's where I get honked. I mean. No, not in a parking lot. I don't think.
That's good. That's impressive. Maybe you're not parking enough different places. Speaking of driving and parking and all these other things, you had talked about, you have kids and almost 2 out of 3 are drivers, correct? Jimmy's not quite there yet. The U.S. is starting a program through the federal government that is going to allow teenagers to drive big rigs from state to state in a test program. My dad used to drive big rig. I'm not a I'm not like a big rig connoisseur. Like I'm not sitting here acting like I know all about it. However, I have probably been around it more than the average person. To me, this is insane. That, and granted, it only goes down to 18 years old. The program is for 18 to 20, because the cutoff right now is 21 before you can actually drive a big rig. But to me, this is nuts. The idea of an 18-year-old driving a loaded up big rig is insane.
Why? Just because they're
for two reasons. I think we've talked a lot about like drinking ages and all these different things. And driving to me is very similar to everything else, where you are only going to be better at it the more comfortable and the more reps you get at it. That's just the reality. And so I think a lot of times when kids struggle when they're 16, 17, 18 to drive, they probably had very little experience around vehicles from the age of 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 on through. There's a reason kids who grow up in the country, kids who work on farms, kids who use ATVs, there's a reason they naturally have a better feel for vehicles when they get into them when they're 16, 17, 18 than kids who don't. I just think the idea that like an average 18-year-old is going to have a natural feel for a big rig is insane. It makes no sense at all. That's my first reason.
Do you have a second reason?
My second reason is, to me, this is putting a Band-Aid on a massive cut. The idea behind this is it's going to help fix the supply chain. It's going to help fix logistics. And to me, that's not the problem. The problem is not that younger people aren't able to drive big rigs. That's not what's going to solve this. And that's why this program is getting pushed through. So to me, you're just putting a Band-Aid on a massive gash wound that it's not going to fix it.
Well,
so you're putting inexperienced drivers behind a big rig to try to solve a problem that this is not like 18-year-olds driving big rigs across the country is not fixing the supply chain.
No. I do get what you're saying. I guess part of the question is like, I mean, obviously there's lots of 18-year-olds who can't. But like militarily, there are, 18, 19, and 20-year-olds doing all kinds of things in the military.
Mm-hmm.
And to think that they can operate that kind of equipment and they can't drive a big rig, there's certainly a select few. There's no doubt about that.
What I like about the analogy that you just gave, because I think you nailed it. However, people in the military, I mean, you have basic training and it's intense, and they treat it as if it is life and death, because it is life and death when you join the military and when you get sent to places. They're not going to do that for this.
No, that's fair.
The training in what you're going to get out of this, I can't imagine is going to be what somebody who joins the military and what they're expected to do. So it's not even that I don't think 18 or 19 or 20-year-olds are incapable. It's that there's no way these people have the reps to do. Typically, when you're from 18 to 20, my understanding, I believe it's still this way, you can do like apprenticeships. So you can be in a big rig and you can help and you can see how it's done. And they have all these different programs. Then once you're 21, you're able to get behind the wheel and you can have your own big rig and you can make money from it. And so you're basically skipping that 3-year apprenticeship and you're just going to put people behind the wheel.
No, I get it.
It doesn't make a ton of sense.
It will be interesting to see how many accidents there are, how much damage is done, along with how much, good is done. Because you would certainly expect both. But I don't know. We'll see.
Well, it's going to be interesting. So
I think you'll also see how I don't want to say only the right people will apply, but
you're hoping that people that would be interested in the first place are the ones who are doing it.
Correct.
They're not just going to get randoms off of the street who decide to show up.
I can't believe you're going to get a lot of 19-year-old idiots who have no business doing this.
I mean, I would hope so. It used to be a 3-year apprenticeship, and now you're going to go from that to like an 18-year-old who wants to can apply and join the program and drive a big rig.
I get it.
It's pretty bonkers to me.
Yeah.
And I would argue this might be one of the only things. I bet you there's no statistical evidence that shows that this is safer, healthier, Like this would have to be one of the only things that a federal program has ever done that there's no actual statistic to back it up that it's safer.
Oh, I think they know it's not safer.
That's what I mean.
I think they just think it'll help.
And yeah, I guess that's the other side of it, and what I kind of hinted at earlier. I don't think it's going to. Well, I don't think it's going to fix it.
It certainly will help. The question is to what degree, and is it even noticeable?
I don't think it's going to be.
Yeah, if you had 1,000 more truck drivers that are 19 years old, is it going to do that much to the supply chain?
Well, I
don't know.
You and I, we use the factory floor as an example, but with a lot of this supply chain logistics stuff, experience matters almost more than the actual ability to do it.
Right. Because
the experience of knowing, hey, we're going to take this highway and we're going to get off here and this turn's a little sharp, or this downgrade, you got to step on it. And they're just not going to have the experience to do this stuff.
It's just like, what was the Denzel movie with the runaway train?
I know what you're talking about. I can't think of it. It was a dumb name. The name of the movie was stupid.
The movie's awesome.
It's really good with James Pine or Ryan Pine.
Chris Pine?
Chris Pine. That's what it is. Really, really good. It's not Bullet. It's like Indestructible or Unstoppable. Unstoppable.
That's not a stupid name.
It's a pretty stupid
name. Not a stupid name. But that was the same thing. Just Denzel just had the experience. He just knew. You can't replace the experience.
I love that movie analogy just worked perfect for what I'm trying to argue. Denzel to the rescue. Let
me tell you, that is an underrated movie. If you're flipping through and you get to that movie, you can't flip past it.
It's really, really good. Let's skip the COVID update for today. I'm tired of beating that dead horse. And plus, I want to talk about pet cloning. Can we talk about pet cloning?
Sure.
This is what I want to say. How crazy has the world been for the last 2 years that not only is pet cloning real, it's happening, and it has been happening for almost, I would argue, over 2 years after reading this. And nobody, how many people do you think know that there are actual clones of pets out there? If I said to my cousins right now, hey, did you know there are actual pets? Most of them would be like, no, there's not. And it's been happening for 2 years.
But how many? Do we have a gross number of how many pets have been cloned?
So I don't have a gross number. So here, just to give you some background on it, it's still expensive. However, obviously the price is coming down now. They're becoming more and more popular. So how they do it, the eggs and the embryos are created in a dish, and then they're transferred into the surrogate, the client says. And her name is Melaine. I want to say Melaine Rodriguez. She works at Via Gen. They do most of the cloning of the animals mentioned in the article. Their big one is dogs. That's the one that they really focused on the most. And they have done up to 6.3 million animals.
What?
Yes.
All right, that was a lot higher than I thought.
Pretty crazy.
That's
pretty crazy.
This might be the first real sign that the end is near.
Now, keep in mind, not all of those animals are direct clones, right? So some of they're just breeding using the embryos and the eggs. They might be a 50% match. They might be a 75%. They're not perfect genetically lined clones, but they have worked on over 6 million animals. And some of these dogs, they've said they have done dogs that have been up to 99% matches of the original dog.
Wow.
Pretty crazy.
That's more scary, I think, than crazy. I'm a little scared.
Are you scared? What part of it scares you? Just
that is just not how nature intended.
Like Jurassic Park?
Yes.
That's what you're scared of?
Yeah.
This is the part that scares me is that it's been going on for 2 years and most people have no clue. This was something, if this would have happened in 2017, it would have been all people talked about for 2 or 3 days. And this went kind of swept under the rug.
Maybe.
You don't think so? Cloning your pet in 2017 would have been a big deal.
In 2017, it would have depended what Trump just said.
Okay. That's fair.
'Cause
That's fair.
He could have drowned it out.
That's fair. But now, like, we're to the point. It's most of the time when you hear the news of something, it's, hey, they had this concept or they did this test or
Right.
the first one ever. And this is now trending, and it is. I mean, they're 6 million plus deep.
No, I'm with you. I would have never
Guess that number.
I would have thought it was in the hundreds. I would have thought it was 1,000.
Have you had a dog?
Oh yeah.
Would you have cloned it?
I'm telling you, it scares me. I've seen Pet Cemetery. It scares me.
You wouldn't have cloned it at all. So I have a husky, and I feel very fortunate. For a husky, I think he's incredibly mild-mannered because most huskies are just, the first 5 years, they're train wrecks. I mean, they're all over the place, high energy, loud. Huskies can be a handful if you don't really love them. And I think I got pretty fortunate with mine. However, I don't think I would clone them. Like, the idea that it would be the same dog, because life experiences start to come into play, right? Like, not to get like too deep down this path, but it can't possibly be the same pet. They're just not going to have the same experiences or the same anything.
No, and I don't.
They're going to look the same, but they're not going to be the same pet. So I've joked, like, my girlfriend's like, we could get another dog, and it would help entertain my husky. But I keep saying to her, like, I just don't think it's going to be the same. Like, I don't think the idea that this next dog is going to be half as good as the dog I ended up with, like, I just don't see it. It almost deters me. You think so? It almost deters me from getting the second dog because I'm just like, I have this gut feeling like I think I got lucky. Like, I think I got lucky with this one and I don't see it and I'm not sure. So the idea of cloning him, I don't like, it seems like a good idea, but even that I'm kind of like, I don't know if it would be the same.
Oh, it wouldn't. It's Pet Cemetery. That's what I'm telling you. Pet Cemetery.
You're way more turned off by that than I thought. What if I said 100 instead of 6 million?
I'd believe that. Because I
would
assumed
you be
it was. Do we know what the cost is?
I don't know. Let me look real quick.
I assumed it was expensive as all get out.
I'm assuming early on it was expensive. However, now I'm wondering if it's gotten down to like a reasonable. Like, to you, what would be reasonable to clone your pet? Like in the year 2022, like what would be a reasonable price?
No number.
Okay, are you ready for this?
Go ahead.
So the price tag for cloning a pet ranges anywhere from $35,000 to $50,000, depending on the animal.
You can go to the SPCA and get a new dog for like $100 worth of shots.
Mm-hmm.
And you're gonna clone your dog for $50,000.
That's what it says. But I mean, if you love your dog, like if you love your pet, this is what I would say. If I were a breeder, and let's say I had a beautiful dog, like maybe it's an award winner, you know what I'm saying? Maybe it has some unique coloring, something. And I'm able to clone that dog, and instead of, let's say, for $1,000 for a pup, I can get, because this dog's so unique or it's so precious, I could get $5,000 for the pup. Maybe cloning it for $35,000 for a litter of them isn't that bad. I don't know. You see where I'm going with that?
I guess
there might be a financial gain there that I'm not privy to.
I don't know. Seems crazy to me.
And just so you know, 6 million is an estimate. It's estimated that 6 million pets have been cloned.
Wow.
But I'm sure some of those pets, think of it this way. If you have one dog and you clone it and the litter's a dozen, that's 12 clones in one bang. Do you see what I mean?
I guess.
So this isn't like a one-to-one, peer-to-peer, human-to-human cloning, right?
I like talking about the Denzel movie more.
More than the thing?
Dog cloning.
I cannot believe this is freaking you out the way it is. So yeah, I find it interesting. So do the math. You're a math guy. Let's say there's 10 puppies in a litter.
Okay.
So 6 million divided by 10.
600,000.
So 600,000, and let's say dogs have done it multiple times.
Okay.
Do you understand what I'm saying? So I mean, realistically, there's a chance less than 100,000, less than 50,000 dogs have actually tried, or animals have tried to be cloned.
Yeah,
It's
you're
not
probably
like
right, because there's probably
I bet
there's a sentimentality aspect, but there's probably a breeding aspect too.
Yes, I bet you less than complete speculation. I bet less than 10,000 actual pets have had their eggs and their embryo cloned into a
You could be right. You could be right.
But once you start doing the litters and multiple times, and then it adds up quickly, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe the 6 million isn't as damning as you think. I'm trying to make you feel better about it.
It doesn't. It didn't work. I appreciate the effort. It didn't work.
Doesn't make you feel like. Anything before we go for today? You got to start writing some of this stuff down.
What?
You used to always, I'd be like, hey, anything for today? I'd be like, yeah, I just want to, and then you just rail it off. The last week or so, you have not had much to say.
Some people might think that's a good thing.
Yeah, unless you're the co-host of a show and you're trying to give them the floor.
No, I mean, it's just we're kind of in the doldrums of January, and this is what happens when you get after. And,
slap a Post-it note right there on your desk and just start writing down random thoughts you have, and then that way you'll always have one when I go to you. I used to do it. Yes, and I know that's why I wouldn't do this to be a jerk or like to call you out. You used to give me something. Like there's a reason I do this. You always had something, and that's why I would do it.
I am getting older.
You are not that much.
Things are slowing down.
I know I made fun of you for it for a while, but now like the joke's over. Like you're not that.
Is it?
You're not that old.
Wait till you're 50. We'll see when the joke's over.
You're not that old. You still have a teenager.
I have two.
There you go. You
know
can't
what?
be old if you still have teenagers.
Really?
Yeah.
Is that your story and you're sticking to it?
Yeah, because then you're still hip. I mean, you know more about MMA than most people. That makes you hip. You're not old.
You can be hip and knowledgeable and old.
I know, but old to me isn't a number. Old to me is like here we go. No, I'm serious.
Now you're like a meme.
So I'm just saying, like, if you're into MMA, like your spirit can't be old if you're into MMA. Your aura can't be old if you're into MMA. You know what I mean?
Okay.
That's all. That's all I'm saying.
I guess.
All right. Thank you guys for watching the Midday Show. Thank you to Weiss Markets for being our sponsor. And be sure to go to NorthcentralPa.com for all of your local news.
We'll see ya.
I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina.
Sorry, I was too soon.
No, that was
Let's
perfect.
try that again.
Well, usually you throw something in there too. We got to clean this up a little bit. Now that we're back in person, we're going to clean it up. I'm Jeff Everett. He's Mark Messina. We will see you all tomorrow.